Schönen guten Abend. Es freut mich sehr, dass Sie wieder so zahlreich zurückgekommen sind. Ich begrüße Sie alle ganz herzlich zu unserer Keynote, auch alle, die zu Hause vor Ihren Bildschirmen sitzen. Ich finde, es war ein ungemein spannender Tag zum Thema Bau einfach, einfach bauen. Wir machen ja hier im Architekturzentrum Wien wirklich in einer Reihe in den letzten Jahren Veranstaltungen zur Bauwende, zur dringend benötigten Bauwende. Es ist halt öfters gefallen, das Bauen verursacht einfach die größten CO2-Emissionen, wenn man alles zusammenrechnet auf diesem Planeten. Und wir können nicht so weitermachen. Und man hat heute wieder gesehen, an diesen vielen wirklich extra guten Beispielen aus dem Gebiet der Kreislaufwirtschaft, des eben sortenreinen, einfachen, robusten Bauens oder auch des Weiterbauens im Bestand, dass es so viele gute Ansätze gibt und dass es wirklich was weitergeht. Aber wir sind noch lang nicht in der breiten Masse, da dürfen wir uns nichts vormachen und wir müssen in die Masse kommen, weil sonst wird nicht nur, der Planet wird vielleicht gar nicht so ein Problem bekommen, aber unser Leben auf diesem Planeten wird ein Problem bekommen und es wird auch, die sozialen Friktionen werden zunehmen, weil die Auswirkungen der Klimakrise sich eben nicht gerecht verteilen auf dieser Welt. Manche können es sich richten, andere können es sich sicher nicht richten. Es ist immer wieder gefallen, dass es sozusagen viele Stellschrauben auch brauchen wird, sei es auf EU-Ebene oder auf nationaler Ebene oder auf Stadtebene. Es ist auch gefallen, dass es in Wien wieder jetzt bemerkbar viele verschiedene Anstrengungen gibt, sei es in der Baudirektion oder in anderen in verschiedenen Planungsressorts. Das ist höchst erfreulich und ich freue mich ganz besonders, dass Gemeinderätin Martina Ludwig-Feimann heute Abend bei uns ist, um das auch nochmal zu bestärken, die Verpflichtung der Politik in Wien für dieses Thema. Herzlich willkommen.
Ich freue mich und darf Sie herzlich begrüßen, und zwar in Vertretung der Vizebürgermeisterin und Wohnbau-Stadträtin Kathrin Gaál darf ich Sie hier herzlich im Architekturzentrum Wien begrüßen. Und ich habe schon gehört, es war heute ein sehr spannender, erfolgreicher Tag, worüber natürlich auch die Politik und ich mich sehr freue. Und mit Ihrer heutigen Teilnahme an dieser Tagung, auch heute an diesem Abend, sind Sie Teil der IBA Wien und das ist eine wirkliche Erfolgsgeschichte, ich glaube, das kann man sagen, die wir heuer in dieser Stadt schreiben dürfen. Das Interesse an den Zukunftsprojekten und an den Ideen ist wirklich enorm, ist sehr, sehr groß. Vielleicht nur, weil mir das auch die Kathrin Gaál so eindrücklich erzählt hat, ein sichtbares Zeichen nach außen, wie viel oder wie intensiv auch das internationale Interesse ist, zeigt, dass sie den irischen Präsidenten in ein Projekt durch die Biotop City führen durfte oder aber auch das holländische Königspaar sich interessiert hat und durch Sonnenviertel in Favoriten geführt wurde. Das, denke ich, sagt schon sehr, sehr viel auch über das Standing der IBA aus, aber auch natürlich über die Innovationskraft des Wohnbaus in dieser Stadt und wir sind eigentlich schon sehr stolz, dass wir auch wenn nicht gerade IBA ist, immer wieder auch sehr, sehr viele internationale Delegationen, vor allem auch durch den Wohnbau und hier im Speziellen natürlich auch den sozialen Wohnbau in Wien führen dürfen, beziehungsweise unsere Projekte darstellen dürfen. Wesentlich aber natürlich ist uns die Expertise, die wir in dieser Zeit in Wien bündeln können und eines der Beispiele sind ja auch Sie heute, ist auch die heutige Veranstaltung. Ich möchte mich deshalb in diesem Zusammenhang wirklich ganz, ganz herzlich bei den vielen Expertinnen und Experten bedanken, die sich auch die Zeit genommen haben und die sich heute, und nicht nur heute, aber vor allem auch heute hier eingebracht hat. Wirklich ein ganz, ganz herzliches Dankeschön, seien es die Baustoffe oder aber auch die zirkuläre Stadt, ein Schwerpunkt, der ja in Wien sozusagen auch umgesetzt werden wird, ganz, ganz wesentliche und wichtige Themen. Ganz herzlich bedanken möchte ich mich aber auch den gleich nach mir kommenden Expertinnen und Experten aus Barcelona und bin schon sehr gespannt auf Ihre Sicht der Dinge. Und abschließend möchte ich mich natürlich ganz, ganz herzlich bedanken auch bei Angelika Fitz und dem Architekturzentrum Wien, weil es wieder mal eine ganz, ganz großartige Kooperation gab, die es ja eigentlich sonst auch immer gibt und worüber uns wir sehr freuen. Und in diesem Sinne wünsche ich Ihnen einen noch spannenden Abend. Herzlichen Dank.
Vielen Dank, Frau Gemeinderätin. Wir sind auch sehr froh, dass wir wiederholt mit der IBA Wien kooperieren können. Und es waren wirklich fruchtbare Jahre und es ist, glaube ich, ganz wichtige IBA für Wien gewesen. Es ist ja nicht vorbei, so eine IBA, sondern die Auswirkungen werden weitergehen. Und wir spüren auch anhaltendes großes Interesse, vor allem zum Beispiel aus Deutschland, wo das Thema, wir brauchen jetzt wirklich mehr Wohnungen und wir brauchen gute Wohnungen und leistbare Wohnungen, also wo natürlich alle auf Wien schauen und auf die neuesten Entwicklungen. Ich glaube, da werden wir noch, sowohl Sie als Stadt als wir als Architekturzentrum, noch viele Delegationen führen in den nächsten Jahren und das macht man auch gern. I'll now switch to English to introduce our keynote speaker. I'm really happy that I have to thank again Caroline Meyer, because I think it's a good moment to thank her again for this really great symposium program. She curated everything and invited. Please give an applause to Caroline. And so she also suggested that we should invite HARQUITECTES from Barcelona. It's a studio which was established in 2000, based in Sabadell, Barcelona. It's managed by 4 partners, and one of them is here with us tonight, Javier Marco? It's almost right, huh? Macho. Oh. Macho in Catalan. Okay, so we can choose whatever you want. But it's also similar with the name of your office, or it's even you can say Acha or also not just ignore it and just say Arquitectos. That's what I learned in Catalan. Or it's almost not there. It's also on your website. One doesn't find too much information on your philosophy or on your profile. Most offices have this kind of manifesto or whatever. But I think with you, it's more the project speaking, and I'm sure you will explain it very well. And afterwards, we will have time for some questions and for a Q&A. Of course, we invited you on for a good reason. We talked today about different low-tech, nature-based solutions. We talked about conversions. We talked about circular economy, and you are doing all of that in your work. So it's part of your work, and it's the result of all this are some really poetic, very beautiful buildings, and I think it's your turn now to show it to us. Welcome, Javier.
Okay, thank you for your kind words. Thank you for the invitation. It's not my first time here in the Architecture Centrum, because in 1995, that makes me feel a bit old, but in 1995 I received a scholarship and I was in the, I think that it was called Architecture Seminar, 1995. I remember that perhaps Dietmar Steiner was the director, and I remember Michelangelo Pistoletto, Gerhard Richter, and very good architects. The year before, I think that Enric Miralles was invited also. So it's on my first time here. In fact, Vienna is the 3rd city where I spend more time in my life. I'm a local guy, you know, because the first is the place where I live, the second is the place where I pass my holidays, and the third is Vienna. Okay. Well, the lecture, it's divided into parts mainly. The first one, it's more conceptual. It's just, I don't know, 8 slides describing some concepts. And then I will explain, I think that 5 projects, not everything about the project, but I will try to focus on a specific point to describe a little bit our approach, to try to give you a general view of how we work and why we do what we do. As a starting point, I said that I'm a local guy, but the fact is that we are a local office. So we work mainly not in Spain, in Catalonia, very close to our area. So it's we need to be close to the place where the constructions are done, and that's our strategy. Okay, yeah, for us, this amazing sculpture made by Chillida, a very good sculptor from Euskadi. I put it here because for us, and you see that the sculpture is done by concrete, so it's very important to decide which is the material that we are going to use. And not only in that direction, also in the opposite. After decide to work with a material, what we can do with this material. And in general, we try to do as much things as possible. So, I don't know, with concrete, we can do, of course, structure, facade. We can create a very specific, let's say, climate behavior because it has a lot of inertia. We can do, like Chillida, this kind of cantilevers, these eaves that can be done only by concrete. And like you see here, with the rain or with the weather, the material change also. Another thing that interests was not only with concrete, is that the process of the construction is kept in the final result of the sculpture or the building. So we are interested in a lot of different times during the construction and also the design of the building. And one of them is, let's say, to crystallize the process of the construction. So in the case of the concrete, it's very clear, but also for the brick. The process to create the brick and to put the brick on site using the different layers of mortar and so on expresses and gives a kind of feeling that it has been there for a long time. And we love this idea of having new, let's say, old buildings. Another constant thing in our work is try to discover opportunities related to which kind of spaces could be, or can we design them with less demands. In this amazing house from Marco Zanuso, you will see two different spaces, very clear. The ones in the corners, that are this kind of dark rooms made on stone with just a few gaps for the window and the door, and that's all. And the one in the middle, which is the opposite, very open, very connected to the weather, very connected to the views, less defined in terms of use. So this kind of spaces of opportunity between inside and outside. And I think that in all of our projects, we are trying to discover where this opportunity of unpredictable spaces can be done. You saw in the last picture that everything is very simple and cheap and basic and minimal in a way. But sometimes it's possible to use, and why not to do so, more, let's say, technical elements like these big doors in this amazing school in France that can be open wide, becoming a porch. Then the boys are studying almost outside or getting closer. And then the porch become a gallery that can work almost like a greenhouse during the winter and so on. So it is interesting for us to find the good tools to do the buildings more flexible in a way. But if you look carefully at the picture, there are two other points interesting for us. So on the one hand, the classroom, it's not the typical classroom, it's higher. So it's not only about, let's say, climate comfort, it's also about space. The classroom is too high, so it's very different than being very low. And the second thing, it's the people, the children. They are almost naked because probably it's summer and they need to get fresh. They take out the clothes. And of course, we are not expecting people naked in our buildings, or, well, sometimes. But what is important is that people understand that it's an active thing for the comfort. So the attitude, it's important. It's not only about the machines, it's not only about the open or close a window, so we can do things to improve the situation inside the building. And in this graphic that I will show you later, there is just an important thing to understand. In general, this is, as you can imagine, the explanation of what is happening in a building and outside during a whole year, from May to May. And there are four important things. The first one is these two black lines, that are describing let's say, the legal comfort between 20, 26, 21 or 27, depends on the regulation. And then the other lines that are moving back up and down are important. The blue one is the outside temperature. So it's going up on summer and going down on winter as usual. And the other two lines are very important. This one, the red one, it is always fitted in the right temperature. But the other one, connecting to the Arzale house of Zanuso, is spaces inside the building that are not following, let's say, the legal regulation of comfort. So it is important to discover where this thing could happen in a building. Yeah, you know the Roman house for sure, so it's a tool to collect water, in a way, the impluvium, it's a tool. But again, it's not only about collect water, it's a high space made with these columns with different styles. It's very high again, so it's not only about collecting water. It expresses the status of the family that lives there. It's also, they use also decorative elements. So it's again about the space and the meaning of space and the feeling in a space. So we really love to create comfort, let's say climate comfort, but I think that architecture, it's not only about that. So it's not enough. From that picture, and you know this house from Alvar Alto for sure. So in general, this idea of create a kind of natural feeling inside buildings, more connected to nature, but more connected to the seasonal comfort. Again, it's not only about the weather, it's also about, I think, that the relation between the man and the nature, but not in a romantic way. In a, how can I say, it's more connected to the skin. So we are men, we are kind of animals, and we need to be connected to nature. And I think that in the case of this fire, in the middle of this amazing corridor, it's powerful in terms of architecture, but it's powerful in terms of what the people there is feeling. I told you something before about the passing of time or the different times of a building, and something that can be clearly seen in this picture, in this facade of this basilica in Bologna. So you know that this is the structure, the brick walls are the main structure. They completed, I don't know when, and they started to put the stone facade growing up from the bottom to the top with the style that was fashion at that moment. And they stopped, we don't know why, I don't know why, sorry, for war, for crisis, for, I don't know, because they started another one, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Probably a long time before, somebody decided to protect this stone facade with this eave, protecting from the water. And this is the result of this long life history. And yeah, it's interesting because you can know this story, and it's always interesting, but it's not necessary. So you can, if you go to Bologna and you face the facade of the Basilica, you don't need to know nothing, but you can feel this idea of passing of time, the things that happen to that building, and after all, the aesthetics of that building. And I think that this is important. It's not about rational always, it's about your perception also. Yeah, today I visited the Basquiat exhibition in Albertina's museum. Super amazing, and I realized that you can look at one of the paintings, and if you go close, you can imagine what happened during the painting with different layers, some scratches, and a lot of things, and a lot of layers that are involved in the short history of the production of this painting. I think that in architecture, and I think that could describe it in this picture of the Diocletian Palace of Split. Yeah, there is a starting point, powerful, amazing, very precise in terms of style, kind of building, so on, very homogenic in a way. And then what happened to this palace during centuries? Again, it's interesting in terms of history, because to know things, it's interesting, but it's not very important, because if you go there nowadays and you see these streets, the new buildings that probably has been done using the stones of the demolitions of these original buildings, and we don't know why, but some of them are kept and arrive to our days. So it's a kind of collage, this kind of palimpsesto with very different layers, where all of the layers are creating a very specific soul. Of course, I think that the starting point is very relevant, so nothing can be understood or feel without this first step. But after all, it's the mixture of different layers, different constructions, very casual situations that arise to us and creates, in a way, a new thing where all the things that happen, all the centuries, all the scars of the story are kept there, giving a very specific soul to this center of Split. And not in a casual way, like the Diocletian Palace, but to work in a pre-existing building, it doesn't matter if it's a heritage building or not. I think that sometimes it's interesting to be valiant, it's not a holy thing. So sometimes you need to demolish, to transform, to add, to demolish. So do whatever you want, what is necessary to transform, in this case, burned offices to a new theater, adding this greenhouse facade, the scaffolding, and technical things. Almost everything is new, but the presence of the old parts, in fact, just the party walls, are essential to understand what is happening there in terms of architecture. And it is also interesting, not only this idea of new and old creating actually a new thing. It is interesting to understand that also a theater that historically has been an archetype repeated and repeated with some variations, but with long life, let's say, can be transformed thanks to the architect, in this case Lino Bardi, who understand or imagine that a theater can work as a kind of long street, and it doesn't matter if it's narrow or height, because the theater that will happen there would be like it would be, thanks to the limits of the architecture in a way. And I think that this idea of imagining architect redefining how a theater play could be it's something that it's also interesting for us. Well, this is a very good painter of Catalonia, Ramon Casas, and he painted a lot of this kind of canvas, an outdoor or semi-outdoor space in Barcelona. It's his house or the house of his family. And we can imagine that some architect or somebody define what to do there and start the construction, imagining everything, this kind of terrace or veranda, outdoor, the big doors, these shady elements. So I think that everything happened as the architect planned it. And this is important because we as architects can control this kind of things. We make decisions for things to happen. But we are lucky because, and in our case, we try to control everything during the whole project. During the work in the office, but also during the construction, we are always there trying to improve the design step by step, day by day, changing what is necessary if we discover a better solution than the planned one. So we are there. And we are imagining not only the present, I mean the construction, also the life of the building. But, and I suppose that it was the case of Ramon Vázquez Molezún, a very good Spanish architect that designed his own house. And I suppose him imagining this porch where with the boat inside, like a kind of garage, and then the balcony on the top facing the sun. I suppose that the living room is there, so I think that he imagined it to drink coffee with the friends and so on. So everything as he planned it, but then arrived his daughter, and the balcony became a place to jump to the water. Unpredicted situation, but I think that in general, let's say good architecture, it's always ready for unexpected things. And for us, it's very amazing because, as I told you, we only think about present and future, but there's always an unexpected line that creates something that you didn't wait for. Yeah, new tradition sounds a little bit like a right party. No, it's the more in Spanish. Eh? In English sounds good. Yeah, as I told you before, we feel like local architects, so we start working with the traditional systems there, sometimes for, let's say, budget reasons, but not always. It's not this case. This house is not for well, in fact, it's for rich people in a way. The house, it's very simple, so it's a house in a garden, and the owners wanted a house strongly connected to the garden, but also with a lot of walls, because they are our collectors, and they want to hang the canvas on the wall. So it's a kind of contradiction as a starting point, because they want walls, but good connection. And we decided to create these 4 cubes with a kitchen in the center, the place for the kids on the right, and on the left, the parents' part. And after that, we added, and these kind of boxes are made with a traditional way of doing architecture, massive walls and just a few gaps for each space just to have light and to ventilate. And that's all, well insulated, and that's all. But then we added these 2 other spaces, a kind of gallery that connects from south to north the garden, and that connects the different boxes of the house in an opposite way. So they are made on glass that can be open wide as a porch, both of them. This is the entrance, and this is the, let's say, the living room. You can understand here how simple it is. So the 3 boxes and the 2 galleries or porches connecting the 2 gardens, and using a very basic system, load-bearing walls, double walls, because there are no buttresses, so we need to, they are working together thanks to a very basic steel connection, you will see later, and that's all. So it's a very typical system, as you can see here. Yeah? These are the connectors, so both of them are load-bearing walls. They are working together. During the construction, we improve everything thanks to the workers, let's say. So in this case, we change the design of the lintels because the worker proposes a solution and we love it and we test it a little bit and it worked. The brick is the more basic one. It's for structural walls, but in general covered by mortar or different layers, not in this case. And this is the house after the completion. You can understand very fast this huge connection and the two boxes and just one window for the kitchen and another for the studio on the top. And again, if you compare this picture just after the completion and this one after 3 or 4 years, how the vegetation has grown up. So we love the vegetation because it expresses a lot this idea of passing of time, and in general it improves not only the, let's say, the aspect of the building, because it's very different, it's better for sure, and only it improves the comfort, the climate comfort, because in this case you can imagine that on summer we have foliage on the top, and on winter the foliage falls down and the sun goes inside very deep in the house. In this case we decided to keep the same kind of walls without painting in the galleries, expressing this outdoor condition, this space in between. As you can see here, showing all the basic systems of construction, having a lot of inertia. Inertia is very good in Barcelona. And then inside the boxes, the same structure, the same walls painted on white, with just one window or two per space. And the kitchen, which is very high. Yeah, this is an ideal concept. So after all, if the buildings were like an organism, they will work very well in terms of energy consumption and in terms of comfort. But it's not easy, and in this case, it was a high standard and very high ambition in that sense. It's a research center for environmental investigators. So, and I don't want to explain the very specific things of this project, but as you can see here, the building breathes, so it can be open totally or closed, depending on the temperature. There are a lot of strategies, but the main one is to have a massive building, thanks to these concrete slabs that you can see here. Then all the walls are made on wood, so they can be dismantled after whenever they want. In fact, and all the building is covered by the facades and the roof with this greenhouse system that can be open or closed. And as you can imagine, on summer it's always open because we need this vertical ventilation working as a chimney, and it works very well. And on winter it's the opposite. Everything is closed, so we keep the energy inside. We have not only passive systems, we have air system to renovate, sometimes a little bit warm, sometimes a little bit cold. And we have also always a piping system with water in the floor and on the ceiling. So there are a lot of systems. We use also the air between the terrain and the building, so because it's a very constant temperature air. So it's always good on winter and on summer. So there are a lot of strategies trying to design the more adaptable building. The graphic is from this building, so you can see here the red line that explains the temperature in the boxes. I mean, offices, laboratories, and so on. But the rest of the building, and it means a lot of square meters, are this orange line that is always better than outside, but not in this level. But it doesn't matter, because if you arrive there on winter and you are in 50 degrees, you don't take out the clothes. So it's up to you. And on summer, you can decide to be in the ground floor, which is much more fresh, and on winter on the top to have breakfast. So again, it's up to you. The building is very simple, so we have a heavy structure, post-stressed concrete framework with these columns. We have 4 atriums, vertical patios that connects all the levels and of course works as a kind of chimney. We have these rows of offices made on wood. And then all these spaces that are to work in a less formal way are sparkled in all the building. Then we have the skin with these polycarbonate windows that can be open or closed. And the thing is that the building works, as I said, as an organism because on winter it's closed and on summer it's super open. So we have a lot of air crossing the building, so and it works very well. And you can see here in blue everything that is not artificially climatized. So almost all of the building is done with this strategy, and the rest in pink is for the offices, and the laboratories have a high standard of comfort level, so it's a closed system. The rest of the building is interchanging always. And again, in this case, this is the space where the ambition in terms of climate is low. So you need to wear short on summer and with more layers on winter, but it's the only way. And this is one of the courtyards, and you can see the greenhouse system on the top. It's interesting because this is really inside the building, the light and the air, it's like in an outside place, and always better than outside. This is a laboratory, which is a closed system, so we just push the air crossing the slab, you will see later, and collect it in the same system, but you cannot open the windows because it's a very specific and clean air. But in the offices, a system, open the window or close depending on the needs of the people and the conditions outside. So it's controlled by a computer system. Of course, the user can decide if he wants to open the window, but if he get out and the window is open and the system decided it must be closed, it gets closed. So it's a mixture. And yeah, it's very complex, the building, but the slab, we make it lighter using these pipes where the air crosses the whole building. So when the air is cold, it refreshes, and when the air is warm, it dissipates the energy thanks to the concrete mass. So it works very well. And we have a refreshing pipe system on the bottom, and then with the pavement, we have a layer of pipes to get warm. And this is the construction. So it's very complex and beautiful, the picture. And you can see here the post-stressed bars that after the pouring concrete, we screw it, and then it has tension to support more distance between the columns. And this is the result of the building. So this is a big campus close to Barcelona. And this is the typical building that they have in this campus. This is the energy consumption. And these two lines are the simulation and the real graphic. So we reduced in half part the energy consumption. And I think that we increased a lot the real comfort. But to reduce this half part means, I think that year, 100,000 euros, which is a lot. And today the energy, it's very high. This is 7 years ago. Fluid matter, yeah, as architects we design in general not the fluid matter, but the solid one. But what we decide about the solid affects totally the fluid matter. It means the air, the water, and so on. So in this case, this is a civic center, or kind of civic center in Barcelona. We create a kind of a big tool to improve the temperature. So the whole building, it's a tool to create comfort in a natural way. This was a former, or a big glasswork factory from Barcelona, close to Diagonal. But they demolished almost everything, and nowadays, when we won the competition, so I think that the factory was very, very big, but what it arrived to our days is just this triangle, and not the triangle, but the single facade, this L. And the rest is just the structure to support the facade, and that's all. So we have to demolish all the structure and to keep the facade, because it was a heritage facade. So we have kind of conflicts with the patrimonial and the heritage people, because, well, no, it doesn't matter. Well, it's not an excuse, but sometimes you need to convince people that are not easy to convince. Well, now the thing is that we started the project with these big walls that we have here, and we implement the same kind of walls to the whole building to create a new structure. The geometry is very strange. It's a triangle, and we decided to put a kind of greenhouse in the sunny facade, and then the classrooms facing this greenhouse, and then you will see with these big gaps on the wall that there are a connection with the chimneys, and then a corridor, and then the small program where the triangle gets smaller. And then another atrium, a very vertical one, that is the entrance. So using load-bearing walls and massive concrete slabs to have inertia. So you can see here one of these classrooms during the construction. So we have this window here connected to the greenhouse, and these gaps on the wall connected to the chimneys. So the air crosses from the greenhouse to the gap and goes up thanks to the chimneys. So it's a very risky project, because we decided to renovate the maximum times per hour. It means 11 times per hour, which is the maximum, using only natural system. And in fact, using the sun during the summer, which is the enemy in Barcelona. And so these chimneys that are on the top, that creates a very specific landscape in the city, but are the tools that remove the air very fast. So the air crosses the classroom, goes up through these pipes, and here in this kind of pyramids that are the chimneys, the base of the chimneys, the temperature gets very, very high. I mean, 70 or to 90 degrees. It means a lot. This difference of temperature creates the movement. And it happens because of the sun. And the geometry of the pyramids are the best to have more sunrises during the whole day. So it's not about aesthetic. It has an aesthetic consequence, but it's a very scientific design in a way. And the thing is that it's important to remove the air during the day, and we have also an extra tool to refresh, which is the pavement. We have pipes with fresh water, but not much, for if necessary, and also in winter. And that's all. But what is important here in Barcelona is not to remove the air during the day, because the temperature is so high. It's to remove the air during the night, because at night it goes down enough to refresh the whole building. And to refresh the mass is the secret to use inertia to create comfort. So the chimneys work also during the night with a very basic system that you will know. It's the Venturi effect, that thanks to the changes of size of the gaps, the air goes faster and it's removed and sucks the air from the bottom. So it's very simple. So this is the strategy. On winter, everything is closed, just to renovate. We circulate the air, I don't know, 1 time per hour, depending on the people that are in the classroom. And on summer, always open during the day and also during the night. So the same strategy. We manage this kind of schemes and simulations using engineer software. We don't know how to use it, but we make all the decisions about that. So we put on the table options, they study the options, they improve the options, we discuss. We are in the same table and in the same level, but we make decisions because it's about architecture and we are architects. Yeah, we do this kind of drawings for El Croquis magazine where we express, or we try to express, everything related to architecture. It means space, structure, proportions, air flowing, temperature, everything. But focusing mainly to the people, because people is our target. So architecture, it's not an excuse, because it's more than that, but everything is decided around the experience of the people. And experience means all. Space experience, skin experience, feeling, temperature. So we actually believe in a kind of global atmosphere where everything is involved. So we try to draw it in these drawings for our croquis for each building. And you can see here the chimneys with this black membrane and the air that moves between the black membrane and the HFI and the chimney. And as I said, we have a heritage facade here, and we increase the height of the building and the chimneys. So for us, it's important we started from an old facade, we create a new one using the old, so everything is new here. And you cannot understand what is happening without feeling the important things of the old part. But they are working together in all the ways. This is the entrance. You can see here these black dots that are white dots inside because they are made on glass. So it's a kind of remembering the glass factory. Sometimes we are sensible, but not much. It was the case. We have feelings. This is the entrance, the triangle, and a classroom. You can see that in general, to increase the surface of the ceiling, it's also with the strategy to refresh, because you know that the hot air goes up. So we have massive surface on the top, the temperature goes down. Well, these are the windows, the greenhouse with the old facade. This is a tool. It's not possible to work there. You can see here this kind of grids connected to the basement. So we have fresh air from the basement, and then it goes up and across the classrooms and so on. Yeah, I told you something about that using Lina Bobardier's Teatro Oficina. It is important for us, this idea. So for us to work with heritage or not heritage buildings, just a pre-existence, is always an opportunity to transform, because we need to give a new life to the building, so we need to be valiant to make good decisions on that. This is also a civic center in Sants in Barcelona. This is what we find there. So it was a former cooperative of the startings of the last century, 2028, I mean. But after the Civil War, the cooperative was stolen by let's say, the power. And after a long period, because this becomes a kind of factory, and this becomes a kind of a place to dance, kind of big bar, where the neighbors go there to dance. And the building gets worse and worse and worse. And arriving to the 2000, they fight a lot to recover the building, and they succeed. In fact, this is the whole project for the construction of the building, a single plan. So it's amazing for us. The building, as I told you, the facade was protected, so we need to keep it there, absolutely. And we just clean it and restore it a little bit, but expressing the passing of time again. It's not a new facade for us. And we had on the ground floor, it was a shop, and on the first floor, it was a kind of theater. The rest of the building, and you can see here the shop and the theater with these wooden trusses that are still there. And then the rest of the building was a kind of spaces to support the theater. I don't know, a kitchen, small pieces, and the rest was for storage, so nothing interesting. And everything almost destroyed for the second users of this building. So we arrived there in 2012, I guess. The building was divided in 3 parts, the main one, the more public one here, and the rest, these 2 parts. Our strategy was to create a kind of new street where the users can fastly be orientated inside the building to know where to go, because it's a center that is actually used for very different people, new people and common users. So it was important for us to make a clear decision that was create this street thanks to a demolition, a total demolition. And then, of course, this street will provide the inside pieces with air, light, and etc. So you can see here the effect. This is the former shop, and this is these places of storage and factory, and so on. And this is after the demolition. During the construction, it changes a lot. The light goes inside. And this is a picture of the competition. You can see here that we proposed this demolition, and we add also a very strategical element inspired in Teatro Oficina of Leonardo Bardi, kind of a scaffolding, where every people can recognize where to go. The stairs and this kind of passerelles and everything very fast and very easy. Then we have the new theater, the former shop converted in a kind of multi-purpose room, services area, and then a lot of classrooms here on the bottom, on the inner part. So it's not very interesting, let's say, the plan of this building, because it's very rare. But it is interesting to understand that on black you can see the original structure, the original walls, better built in the more public area, with worse systems in the rest of the building. So after all, we demolished almost everything in that part, but here we just reinforce the original elements, columns and walls. So everything here it's almost old, and everything here it's almost new. But also in this part, where the structure is totally new, you can recognize the original elements that creates a very special atmosphere effect. So you can recognize this street, the different pieces, so not very interesting in terms of plan. This is the main strategy, so to transform and to recover the theater and the former shop, and to demolish all this part. As in the Chimneys building, the roof becomes more simple, but still a chimney. So we have an air chamber here, and the air crosses the whole atrium and goes up thanks to this window. And you can see here again the original facade and the new things, but working ensembled as a totally new building. Again, the strategy is the same, trying to understand where we don't need artificial climate. In this case, we need artificial climate in a lot of classrooms and so on, but the thing is that we push air inside the classrooms, but the air goes outside and is removed in this street. So we improve the temperature here thanks to the artificial systems that we have in the inner parts. Yeah, in green you can, this is one of the party walls that divided the building in 3 parts. So in green is the original material, the original matter. In yellow, the new bricks. In white, the gaps, old and new. Sometimes we brick up former doors or whatever, the beams, as you can imagine, and also the new foundation of the building, because we put the ground floor in the same level. So it was an expensive thing, but important for us to make it more accessible. And this kind of collage is what you will discover there. And if you look at this moment here, with this kind of 3 windows, new door, green wall as original, and the new one in yellow, and this kind of plinth that you can see here, the old, the new, the plinth, and so everything is working to support the slab. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's new or old. It's the same. It's a wall. It's a load-bearing wall. And this creates, it's for a structural strategy, but it creates a very specific, let's say, aesthetic effect. I don't. this is one of the main spaces of this project, that you can see the drawing, the people, the air, the systems, the temperature, everything described in the picture, and the truth is that this is the new part. But you can see here that thanks to these big gaps, it's not possible to understand the building as something new. So this kind of try to keep the spirit of the original building was something important for us. And this is the facade with the new roof, the entrance. As I said, we just washed the facade, the former shop in the ground floor, the old structure, the old ceiling, reinforce it and whatever. We added layers to improve the insulation and also the sound, the noise behavior. This is the atrium. There's the entrance, the original party wall, and the new scaffolding with the passerelles and the stairs. So it's very easy to understand how the building is organized. And then this, let's say, these scars and these cracks and all the process of demolition that is kind of kept there, creating a very special atmosphere, in this case mixed with new structure, new bricks, and the scaffolding structure of the stairs, and also all the systems for light and so on. So everything is new, but nothing could be understood without the old parts. And the theater with these shutters that are originals, and the facade connecting the theater and the atrium. The new structure on the ceiling to create the air chamber working as a chimney. Again, the process of construction and demolition and everything is kind of frozen inside. And of course, I will not explain, but every brick has an explanation, because it's a good way for us to make decisions, to give reasons why we use the less high to connect with the irregular skyline of the original wall, why we use the cheapest brick for structural wall, why we use this U filled with more concrete and with steel bars, etc. So there is always a reason why we use the size, which is the Catalan size, quite bigger than the Spanish one that we use for the new structure. So these are the kind of plans that we did for this project. I think that we did 250 for the project before construction, and 350 during the construction, more plans. Yeah, and very fast, because I decided to keep this project because it's a new one. The idea of total space, and I explained something a lot about that. This idea of that everything is involved to the space, and in this case, for this project, which is a winery in the south of Catalonia, a very special area called El Priorat, a wine region. The project is very simple. We have the hall to create the wine here, and then there's a kind of street, kind of corridor surrounding this box, a very specialized box, a kind of cathedral for wine, and that's all. So we have the wine production here. Here we have a very high demands in terms of regular temperature, so it is very important to have a very less variations of temperature during the year. And this is the section for this kind of street where everything is open, just roofed, and that's all. The thing is that the ambition here was to create this, let's say, total space, a kind of super height, because the air increases the temperature here and goes up and then is refreshed and goes down thanks to these chambers that are between the walls. You will see later, in a very simple system that with more layers in the south with the sun and less layers in the north. And it works very well. After 2 or 3 years, the temperature it's very, very regular. You know that the tanks has a kind of serpentine to change the temperature artificially, and it's mandatory, so there are no other way to do wine. So, in fact, it was not necessary to have very regular temperature because we have machines. But if you create a good atmosphere, a good temperature, you don't need to use or to reduce a lot the energy to create artificial temperature in the serpentines that surrounds the tank. And it happened, really. Again, well, the system is very simple. It's always the same. Hot air goes up, and when it's refreshed, it goes down. In this case, using a layer of water, but it's a complex system, but it's easy to understand. We have water during the night on the top, outside, that gets fresh, and we put the water inside during the day. So when the air goes up, it is almost touching the water, the fresh water, and it refreshes more, and it goes down. So the temperature, it's super good inside. And I will focus very fast in these bricks that you can see here that are filled with concrete and some steel bars that are beams created using bricks. And you will see later, these beams are supporting the whole walls here. And this is the system, so we put one over each other, the bricks, then we put the steel bars, and then we pour concrete inside, and after that, it starts working like a beam. We did it in a factory, and then on site we put all of these beams on the ceiling of the hall, always defining the 80 layers that we have in this building of bricks, all of them different. So we draw all of them. This is the thick wall facing the south. And this is the project after the completion. So you can see here the entrance, some views in the amazing landscape, the connection between the street and the hall of the cellar. You can see here the beams that I shown you before. So yeah, it's a tool to create comfort, but of course it's in a space itself, so you feel very special when you are there. And this is the water on the top, a thin layer. Yeah, and this is the last part, just one project and two evolutions of this project is to reuse. This is a house in the north of Catalonia, in Empordà, very good area, beautiful area. So it's a medieval village, totally protected. So very, in terms of heritage, it's very difficult to work there. Our plot is not in the center, it's just here, but it's also under the regulation of heritage people again. And in this case, we have this narrow street with this very beautiful wall made on stone, the typical one. And somebody, I don't know why, decided to enlarge the size of the street. This is a street, and we need to demolish the wall. But they want the wall removed. So here, the same. And we said, it's not possible to do the same, because we are not in the, 300 years before we are today. So we don't know this technology, and we don't want to do so. So this was a starting point, to demolish the wall. So we have a lot of stones there. And the idea was how to create a new wall using today's technology, creating architecture from this, let's say, not the best starting point. So we create a kind of concrete using lime, or reducing a lot the cement. We use also to insulate kind of like rice, but made on glass with air inside, inflated glass, let's say, to insulate. And we use also the sun of the plot, and so we create a very specific mixture of materials, using, of course, the stones of the demolition of the wall, so like that. And you will see that the house was just a wall, let's say, the new wall. And we put a lot of stones in the, let's say, in the black walls, the ones that are in the middle that don't need insulation, dividing walls, not bearing walls, but dividing walls. And we put, for the facade, the gray one, we put the stones facing the street. And we don't put stones in these walls that are separating inside and outside, because this is a porch, an open porch. And you will see that after the completion of the wall, we use a bash hammer to recover the stone in a way, you will see. So this is the original wall, and this is the new house. So as I said, the house is like a wall with a structural. So for us, it's important to understand that the structure could be the space itself. So everything is structural here almost. So the house is close to the north because there is a strong wind there in the cold Tramontana, and it's open to the south and to the views and to the garden, so it was very easy in that way. This is the section. Again, it's just to protect the sun on summer thanks to this eave, very basic. And then we have massive elements here and cross ventilation and just a few gaps on the north to create this ventilation. This is the construction. This is a facade wall. So all the stones are in a very precise work. You can see here, it was not a fast system, but it was the good one. And they enjoyed to do difficult things, after all. And this is what happened after bash hammering the facade. So the stones start appearing there in a subtle way, but it has a very good effect. This is the picture, so the truth is that everything is more mixed. It's not this kind of contrast, but this is the north facade, as you can imagine. Again, so the demolition of this thin layer to show the stones are interrupted here, again expressing the system of construction and giving aesthetics to the facade. And this is the inner facade, very open, the different halls of the house, the spaces that are the structure. And this is an evolution because this is in the same area, but here we use Portland, cement, not lime, because we have more height, and we put stones inside because it was a kind of a demolished former country house in the same area. So in this case, it's new and old, but using not the same system, but I think that it works very well together. And again, the kind of architecture is related totally to the material and the structure and everything. And this is the last one. Again, the same idea. In this case, for social housing in Mallorca, a very small project for 25 apartments for elder people. We have a building there that it was mandatory to demolish. It was a competition, so there were no option. We need to demolish. It was in a bad situation, so it makes sense to demolish, but we keep this sandstone from the load-bearing walls. We keep the stones, and as you can see here, so we demolish the building, we keep the stones, and we create a kind of big bricks, putting the stones mixed with lime concrete again, but prefabricating all the blocks. This was what the briefing of the competition was expecting, a wooden building to be very fast to build, but this was our proposal, to use these prefabricated big bricks. So this is almost the last section. You can see here that in each level we reduce the depth of the stones. And again, this decision influenced everything around the project, everything. And these are kind of proofs that we did 1 year ago. We changed the system because theoretically we start doing a kind of a specific plywood frame to pour concrete inside piece by piece, block by block. But then we have an idea and we create this kind of big pools 4x4 we put the stones inside, and then we pour concrete, and after that we cut with this big disc row. Looks very fast, but not very easy. Now we start having an amount of very strange blocks, but very beautiful. So again, this is a wet one because you can see the water between the limestone and the lime. I mean, I said limestone. It's not the word. Sandstone. Sorry. And the lime concrete, using the rests of this stone for the sand and the gravel are from the same material, and you can see here the signs of the disc. So, and to end, la bona vida in Catalan means something like good life, but in English could be to enjoy, because we are very rational, sometimes sensible, but very rational. We can describe all the buildings in scientific, climatic, structural, blah, blah, blah way, but we actually love this idea of good life, of enjoy. And year after year, twice per year, I think, before summer holidays, before Christmas holidays, all the office, we go to visit the works under construction or completed, not a lot, because we are a small office, so 2 or 3, depending on the year. We go there and we celebrate, I think that our success, because for us to share this lunch with the owners, the ones that suffered our way of working. We suffered them too. But for us it's amazing. I think that not only to enjoy architecture, which is our main goal, but we complete the constructions and we disappear in a way. But not only this idea of enjoy architecture, but this idea of being a team. Because today I'm here. Now perhaps we will imagine architects associated to me, but this is not the truth. We are 4 partners. We are 2 other, not partners, but almost 2 girls that has been working with us for 15 or 12 years, a long time, and at least 15 more people, young people, and not so much young. And we are a team, and you know, if you are architects, you know that it's not easy to build buildings. It's not easy, it's very difficult, so we suffered a lot. If you are ambitious, it's more difficult, and I think that this, for us, success, it's because we are a team and we share everything and we work very hard, and you've seen the result of that. So I'm done. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, we really enjoyed. Maybe you just can take a seat over sure. There. Even get a fresh water.
In Barcelona, this is fine, but in Vienna, it's too late. I'm sorry.
I think everybody just liked listening to you, and especially looking at these wonderful projects and the way you explained them. So thanks a lot. This was really stunning. So we talked about good life from Brussels earlier, and good living, I think you said, and now good life from Barcelona. It's many topics to talk about, but maybe the most striking, connecting all the projects, is really this, let's say, this turn, this shift away from modernist tradition. Like modernism tried to separate us from nature and to stack us in some spaces which are kind of artificial and ventilated and everything. And what you're doing is really about reconnecting us to nature and thinking about different forms of comfort. I think this is something that is really going through all your projects and seems to be one of your central concerns. Do you think there is this general shift in architecture, society, whatever, or that we need this shift?
I think that it must be, but it's not easy because after all, 100 or 120 years before, it was the only way to be smart, to understand how your building, how your house work better, open the window or putting an awning or I don't know. It was the only way. It's not about surviving, but to create good conditions to live. Nowadays and during the last, I think that 60 or 70 years or more, unfortunately, it's not necessary because we have artificial systems. Now everybody knows that it is a problem to waste energy, but this is something almost new. And then I think that our world has a lot of inertia, the rich part for sure, and it's not easy to understand that it is not necessary and it is not possible at all to suppose that we need to be or in a high standard of comfort everywhere. And
do you think now, especially with new energy prices and with the crisis, that kind of people will finally follow you?
Yeah, probably because it will be the only way. But in Spain, we suffered, I think that at least 2 crises during the last. Well, in fact, we grew up in crisis, and so for us it was, and it is natural to manage this crisis situation. But in our case, in 2008 or something like that, I think that when we started controlling, like we are doing today, our buildings, and sometimes our clients also, there was a big crisis there, and we were lucky in a way because it was an opportunity to make it easy for the clients to understand the potential of this, let's say, bioclimatical architecture. And I don't like the word because it only refers to climate comfort. But everybody arrives, the people that went to the office arrives there and they ask how to reduce the energy consumption. And we started there. We were lucky because we were involved in some schools of architecture there in Barcelona, knowing very interesting people around this idea of bioclimatism. I think that in 2010 and these years, we worked a lot in this direction. After that, I think that we started understanding that it's not only about that, so this is not enough. So to do good structures that are not falling down, it's important, it's necessary, but it's not enough. So with the energy, the comfort and so on, it's almost the same. And now it's quite similar, so everybody's ready to understand why it makes sense to work like that. But it's not easy because after all, in Spain, the regulation follows, I think that so much, let's say, German rules or more Central Europe rules, like yours probably, creating a frame that doesn't make sense because so you have better level if you improve the insulation and it makes sense, but if you put the best machines. This is the jump, the big jump, to put the best machines. Almost, I think that all of the buildings that I explained to you today are not illegal, but are in the cantilever. So trying to find a kind of gaps in the rules to changing small numbers, let's say, nobody's listening to us, but exploring the other side of the edges. And I think that it's the only way, but every time it's more difficult. In fact, I think that all of the buildings that you've seen today are not legal today. So it is not possible to do the 4 biggest ones that you've seen today. It doesn't make sense.
So we have many regulations, I think, everywhere in Europe, but maybe not the right regulations. Maybe you would need some different ones. I think what was very interesting also, the way you talked about like cooperating with many experts, technical experts from different disciplines, but your role as an architect, making the decisions and kind of bringing it together, because today we saw a lot of diagrams from different projects where you had like 10 consultants and experts, and this question like, what is the role of the architect if you have so many consultants? And I think with you it's very clear the way that you are cooperating, but still being, as an architect, being the leading person in that process.
So we are architects, we know, I don't know a lot, but we know about architecture, but we don't know about other things, about vegetation. We are very non-naive, but we don't have the knowledge. And we don't have the knowledge of the engineers to understand the systems and to calculate, so we need people around us. But working, so I think that what makes the difference is to understand that all of the people involved in a project and in a building are rowing in the same way. And it's not about status, but we are the directors. We are the last person to make decisions. And it's a risk, and we make mistakes for sure, but it's our role. And not in terms of power, in terms of, let's say, capacity. So we know the people, I don't know, on site, the people that is doing the pipes and so on, and the engineer is only worried about this problem. But the solution affects a lot of things, and we know we have a global vision. This is the difference, and it doesn't matter. This is our knowledge.
You also talked right from the beginning about locality, that you are really building locally and that you have to be very close to the construction site, and one can imagine that these processes are quite long and that you really have to be there and to look after it in detail. So is it really like, are you bound to a certain parameter then? And is this also something like a new, not say movement, but phenomena in architecture then, that from global generic architecture, which is like looking the same everywhere all over the world, we come now back to this very kind of specific local material approaches?
In our case, it was not, it was not a decision, it was what happens naturally. So we are not from Barcelona, we are in the surrounding area of Barcelona, 20-25 kilometers around Barcelona. I think that a better place to grow up as architects, because we had more opportunities to, for example, we did a lot of houses, private houses, a lot. I don't know, probably 20-25. It's impossible, this situation for a Barcelona architect. But the idea of local, it happens naturally. So, as I said, we spend a lot of time, insane amount of time in the office, designing with our team and the collaborators and a lot of people. But we really love to start construction, to have the plan, everything controlled, but ready to change everything if necessary. And so our design process only ends when the building is complete. And then the life of the building starts. So to do that, I think that it's only possible if you are close to the sites. In the last project that I've shown, it's in Mallorca. In Mallorca means, so when I go there, I spend the whole day, I take 2 flights. It's good, because I read or I draw, so I use that time. But it's not the same. If there is a kind of emergency, the cell is the only way. In Barcelona or in the north of Catalonia, by car, I'm there. What is happening today in our office or during the last, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years, we are older, and I think that our work, well, I am here today, no? So, let's say a lot of people knows our work. So, good things, good opportunities are appearing abroad for us. And
Yeah,
it's
you have some
not
major
easy.
publications in order to like cookies and so on.
Yeah, so we receive proposals abroad, and we are doing, I was talking with Joanna, a big project in Belgium as an experience, but it's another, for now it's very different. We don't know the culture, and yeah, to complete all of these projects, it's not only about knowledge. I mean, it's not only about technical or architectural knowledge. It's because we control all the situation. It means the relation with the administration. What the administration is waiting for, the heritage people, the clients, the prices, the workers. So we have now, because after all, I've been doing that the last 20 years and with very intensive with my partners and all that stuff. So we know everything about our situation there, but we have new problems and new situations, but we control everything. We know the words. So, for example, in English, and you've seen today, I'm worse than in Catalan. So, and sometimes to convince somebody, it's a very subtle and a very precise usage of words. And in my case, but in our case, it only happens in Catalan or in Spanish. And this makes a big difference. But as I said, it's very simple to define our situation about working abroad. If we have good opportunities in Catalonia, we don't need more. But Catalonia and Spain, it's a kind of, I don't know how do you say Russian mountains, but you know what I mean, eh? Up and down, sure. But difficult relationship. No, I mean the crisis, it ended, but it starts, so it's a natural flow, never-ending flow. Yeah. And as I said, we are receiving good proposals abroad, so it's not easy to reject. I don't know. In Belgium, we are doing a block of housing, a complete block. Well, it's very special. So.
Yeah, and of course, it's very tempting to to relate your work to the Belgian contemporary architecture. A lot of connections, but maybe there are some questions from your side.
They are totally tired.
Concerning intensity, I could also imagine, or it's hard to imagine the economy of your studio, of your office, because I think you talked about working hard. I can imagine that very well, but how it works financially, like this immense
I think that
amount of hours you're putting into the project, it's really difficult to imagine.
Well, as I said, I think that we are starting being older, so I don't have the same capacity to sleep 4 or 5 hours per day because I feel very tired. So we work a little bit less, but we manage more people, so we work in a different way. But our office, I think that our architecture, it's probably or has the same character as we as a persons. So we are, I don't know how to say that, but we are kind of humbled. So it's not a business. We put, for example, if we have a building under construction and we have a big problem, and it's the case of a lot of these buildings, our option always is to put the people and the hours, not that we are going to I don't know how to say, to receive money, I guess. So the hours that are necessary to control and to make the good decisions. So it's a ruin in terms of economics. But, and our salaries were very controlled. I mean, hours and from all the people in the office. But to be honest, and probably you are architects, to do bigger buildings means to receive more money. So we lost a lot of money in all the houses, not now perhaps, but we lost a lot of money. But having big projects creates a kind of balance. And nowadays, well, we suffered 2 crises, but we have always, we were lucky because we won competitions, big ones, these 3 that I explained today. So we have a lot of work during the crisis, but we managed not as we can be rich, we can have an office for a long time. So we can pay the people, included us, for, I don't know, today, for 2 years, for example. This is our parameter, which is the risk. So I don't know, but we are lucky. We have done a lot of works and big, this kind of buildings, 2,000 square meters. It's a big building for us, and it's good in terms of fees. But because we spend the money of our office in people, in hours. Now we are going to change our space. We are moving, but after 20 years. I don't know. In our office, architecture first, but yeah.
Can very well imagine. There's a question coming up.
My English is very terrible. Ich traue mir nicht in der Öffentlichkeit mein Englisch zu zeigen. Kannst du bitte übersetzen? Ja. Vielen Dank für so viele Projekte. Und am Anfang habe ich sehr viele Fotos gemacht und dann nachher bei den nächsten Slides habe ich gesehen, also bei den ersten Projekten, dass es sehr technisch auch Technik eingebaut war. Und dann bei den letzten Projekten habe ich gesehen, es war weniger und weniger Technik, immer weniger. Meine Frage ist, hat es im Laufe der Arbeits- oder diesen 20 Jahre Praxis die Verständnis für natürliche bauphysikalische oder natürliche Materialien, das Verständnis gegeben, dass es auch ohne Technik geht? Das war meine Frage.
So the question is that she has the feeling that the earlier project, or the projects you showed at the beginning, that there was still quite a lot of technological stuff involved in like service technologies, and in the last projects it was more and more like nature-based solutions, low-tech solutions, if this was like an evolution in your work?
Could be an evolution, but the thing is that, for example, the 3 public buildings that I shown today, the research center, the more sophisticated one, works in the same way that we plan it, because they have people working there that is able to manage very sophisticated systems, because they speak the same language, so it works perfectly. The chimneys one, I think that works very well. It's a public building where the people that is managing the things are a common person, but the system is very simple. Just to move the air, open, close windows, and it works alone, so it's fine. And also the piping system in the pavement, it's very basic, so it's easy, because it works alone, it don't have variation, it's very regular, fine. The other one, the civic center with the big demolishing in the middle and so on. In this case, we put again a central system with a computer that manages how to open or close the windows, the ones in the facade and also the ones on the top. And then we have a system of artificial air to renovate and to refresh and so on. We have artificial light and natural light for sure. But in this case, after 5 years, it works not as we planned it, because they are not interested on that. So they rejected a software where you can keep in a space in this building, and then the artificial climate activates alone. And they reject it, and they don't use the potential. But after all, the reduction of the consumption of the energy, it's very low also, working bad in a way. Yeah? And our attitude about that is that I think that nowadays we are always looking for the more simple option. And sometimes it's not the best in terms of efficiency, but it's the more realistic. It's the one that is going to work fine. And we are looking for that. Because after all, more complex systems means more problems, more maintenance. So in general, for the public buildings, we are moving to the simpler, the better. Hi.
No, it's good.
Hello. Hi, Xavier. Muchas gracias por tu presentación. Thank you for your
Podemos seguir en castellano?
Parlo molt poquet. Oh,
Català, encara millor, encara millor. No, sorry.
yeah, pues, thank you, Xavier, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about the project in Mallorca and the social housing project. And I'm wondering the role of the public sector in that development. And also if you could talk a little bit more about any support systems that they may have encouraged you to create in the building, whether it be environmental or if there was a process of application also, some sort of competition similar to what they do here in Vienna.
So it was a competition, but not based on a proposal, because the building is very small. And they have in the social housing in Mallorca, which has an interesting person, which is Carlos Oliver. Very ambitious, and he really loves his architect. He won several prizes. So, and Ibabi, which is the social developer, creates a kind of small competitions where it's not about plans, it's just a description of the system. And in that case, their idea was to create a wooden structure to go very fast, but in Mallorca, wooden structure, I don't know, it's very strange, it doesn't make sense because you lose all the inertia and so on. And using the, well, not the excuse, but using the potential of the demolishing of the building there, we decided to create these prefabricated blocks, and they are now under construction. And yeah, in that case, the systems and the bioclimatic systems are not very relevant because it's in the middle of the city, so we have high buildings as neighbors. So we have poor sunrises, so, but we have massive walls, so it will work for sure in Mallorca. And they are all of them cross-ventilated, so it's very basic, but it will work for sure. And I don't know, the question was about that, or there was another topic?
Do you do a lot of social housing in Spain, in Mallorca, or anywhere in Spain?
Sorry.
Si haces programas sociales en España, o sea,
No, so we won 2 competitions close to Barcelona for social housing. One is completed, a big one. Good business in a way because it's very big in that sense.
Very happy for
and
you.
This is true. So because after all, to do a house, it's very specific. You have to live with the clients that are their own house, blah blah blah. So you are kind of psychologist or a convincing person, let's say. But it's very difficult. And it's very expensive and a lot of hours, but to do, in this case, in Gaál, close to the airport, Barcelona, 130 apartments, not all of them the same, but quite similar, and we completed, so, and then we won a competition, I don't know, 14 years before for the same developer, and we just completed the project now, after 14 years. And theoretically, we will start the construction in 3 months or something like that. But yeah, in our case, to decide to take part in a competition or to accept clients in a way, because we spend a lot of time deciding if we accept to do a house or to do I don't know what, because it is necessary to understand that a good frame is possible in the relationship between client and architect. So we spend a lot of time on that. And after that, we are 4 partners. 3 of us leads the projects. The 4th is a kind of manager that is involved in all the projects. He's architect and he's a good architect, I guess, but he don't design in a way. What I was saying, sorry. Yeah, so we have a kind of balance of the different type of buildings, because we love to do houses, but to do always a house and another, well, it's not very interesting. You don't have the same energy for the third. And to do social housing, it's also, well, it's okay, but it's very difficult. The budget, the price is very low. Well, it's very difficult in a way. And also this kind of public building. So we have a kind of balance of different type of buildings, because then it don't reduce the risk, but in a way it reduces, because if you only do, let's say, social housing, and I don't know why, but for a crisis or whatever, the social housing stopped, then we are 20 people or 15, it doesn't matter, without any work to do. So to have different kind of projects, different kind of clients is an opportunity to reduce the risk, but also a creative motivation to work in different things.
Diversification, like at the stock market.
Yeah.
So we don't be fearful about Europe. That's very nice to hear. I think we would wrap it up at this point and maybe go to the informal part and have a beer or whatever together. I think
always a good option to have a beer.
Okay, it's always an option, yeah.
But
no.
I'm happy here, don't worry.
No, I'm really very, very happy that you agreed to come. It was really so interesting to, like, I think many came here because they knew your work already, but to get it presented from your side, this was very intense and very fruitful. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.